everybody, welcome to the episode 12 of making a Pokemon game in Game Maker Studio 2. In this episode, we're going to add in some Pokemon Essentials. We're going to finally make this look a little more like a Pokemon game and less like a generic game that you would make as a 2-year-old. So for this, you'll need to get Pokemon Essentials, which you can just get from this link. I will try to provide it in the description. Otherwise, you can just look it up, Google Pokemon Essentials. You should be able to find this, and then you'll go to download, whatever the version is. Click that, click the download button. Should be good. I already have it downloaded. And then we'll add it to the project in a minute, but just note that you'll need to go into your downloads folder and find it and extract it. And when you extract it, you should be able to view everything in here. We're going to be looking into the graphics and characters. This is what we're going to be dealing with today. We're going to be taking these players, and they're like 4x4 players, and we're going to draw them instead of our normal character. We're going to draw these characters, and we'll get some nice animations going and make it look nice. So for that, before anything else, I want to get rid of this diagonal movement. If you look right now, we can move diagonally in the room, which we don't want, and we still have this bug. I'm not sure how to fix that bug, to be honest. That little like shaking that I do, because I'm not even sure what's causing it, to be honest. It's not diagonal movement. I figured that out. I thought it was, but when I was testing this out, because I wanted to make sure I can get this right this time, after I got diagonal movement out, it still was shaking sometimes. Not as often, but it did. So I'll have to figure that out one day. Anyway, for now, let's get rid of that diagonal movement. I thought about how I was going to do this, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some new macros for the directions. So we'll create a macro for up, which will be 0. Macro left will be 1. Macro down will be 2. And right will be 3. And I'm doing in this order because this matches up with our W, A, S, and D, so it'll make things a little easier. Instead of having left, right, up, and down, we're actually going to keep track of a list of all of our key presses. So I'll call this key presses equals an array list, and not an array list, it's a DS list create. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And we'll just do that, and we can get rid of our left, right, up, and down values. And then under our, what do we need to update now? Update client here. We are checking which keys are being pressed, and then right now we're just sending that key directly. Instead, I'm going to just send I, and that'll just send either a 0, 1, 2, or 3. In accordance, those numbers will actually match up with these numbers. I could convert them over, but since they're the exact same numbers anyway, that's why I'm doing it this way. Gosh, I have to cough all the time these days, I feel like. Anyway, so that works there. We'll need to do the same thing for the release as well. So for key release, we'll do I as well instead of keys I. Under the update server, this will have to be changed a little bit as well. We'll do that in a little bit though. For now, I think everything should be fine. So let's go to our network and let's actually make it so that we're receiving the proper data. Because right now, we just changed it so that the data that gets sent, I don't know where I am anymore. We just changed it so that the data that we're sending is the direction instead of the key. So we need to handle that in the on data server. If you'll open on data server, right here actually where we do key press, we are doing this weird thing where we're like checking if we press the W key, the A key, the S key, whatever, and we're updating the player's value. Instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to push this onto that key presses array and just keep track of a list of all the keys that we press, essentially. So I will say if key or oh, no if statement. We will just say p dot key presses, and actually I need to do ds list add key presses. We're adding, and what are we adding? We're adding that key to that list. And then under the release, we need to remove that from the list. So I will say var index equals ds list find index of p.key presses, that key, and then I'll say ds list remove, or it's delete, I think, from p.key presses that index. So when we release the key, we are finding the key in that list and removing it. Dang, someone likes to speed down my road. Anyway, where was I? Yep, so we have this ds list find. So we find the index, then we remove it from our list. And I just want to check something. So what happens if we aren't able to find this? Because right now, what happens if we happen to have, for some reason, 3 indexes or 3 instances of this key in our list? We shouldn't. That would be weird. But what if? And the answer is, I assume -1, but it doesn't really tell me, does it? If I middle mouse click, and it turns out you can don't have to hold control when you middle mouse click to open this. I thought you did. But it looks like if the value does not exist, then -1 will be returned. So here's what I will do. When I was testing this, I didn't do this, but we'll do it now. We'll do a while true here, and we'll say if index equals -1, return. Or not return, break. Just in case we need to do more stuff afterwards. So we're just going to continuously try and find this key within the list, and essentially just remove every instance of that key that we find. And if we don't find anything, we'll X out of the loop. So that should be fine and good, hopefully. Under the player data now, we could probably fix up the server update server, because we don't want this, right? What we want is we want to find the last position in here, the last key we pressed, and only take that into account, nothing else. Okay, sorry about that again. So var last key equals ds list. I wonder if my coughing isn't actually my sickness anymore. It's more just me talking. I'm not used to talking this much, maybe. That could definitely be it. And we don't want to create a list. What am I doing? ds list. We want to find a value. We're going to find that key out of our key presses variable, that list. And what position do we need to find? The last position. So this is going to be ds list size of the key presses, and we need to subtract 1 so that we get the last index. So basically we're going to get the very last key that we pressed. So delta x and delta y, these can be set to 0 now. And for last key, we can say if last key equals 0, equals up, up, then we'll say delta y equals 1. That's a -1, isn't it? If last key equals down, then delta y equals 1. If last key equals right, we'll say delta x equals -1. And if it is left, then hold on, delta x equals -1. Right should have been +1. I don't know what I was thinking there. Let's line these up a little better. Okay. And that should automatically just work, I think, because yep, we're updating it there. I don't think I need to change anything else, I hope. When we update the position, we aren't trying to use left, right, up, and down. So I guess let's just try this. We'll see what happens. Probably get a bug or an error. Press keys. That works. If I press and I hold other keys, see, there's the shaking again. I don't know what's going on there. I really want to figure that out so I can fix it. Does it only happen when I try to move up? I don't know. It's hard to tell. But anyway, diagonal movement is now gone, and it seems, at least, besides that weird bug, it is only when I move up. Sometimes, though. Anyway, let me run another client just to make sure that nothing is broken or weird, and it seems to be good. And now if I run that one command, by the way, if I do, what was it called? Data send for, instead of doing 65, I can say, I have to say the number, so I do send for U81, which would be left, 0 is up, 2 is down, and 3 is right. So if I do that, yeah, that's what happens. Anyway, that should all be fine and dandy now. We now have movement working. Now I need to, I'm trying to think, we should add a direction, I guess. So we're going to keep track of what direction we are facing. And this will be important when we add in the sprites for the players, which we'll do here in a minute. But for now, how do we keep track of a direction? It's going to be hard to tell if this is even working because there's no way to visualize it until we add the player in. But for now, we'll just wing it. We'll just go for it. And I believe that we need to update the position. When we update the position, we should update the direction as well. So, yep, direction will be either 0, 1, 2, or 3, I believe. So, yeah, let's add the player first, I guess. So come into your files where you open up the Pokemon Essentials, go to Graphics and Characters, and we'll just add in a painter, just so you can see quickly. And this shouldn't be in rooms, this should be just outside of everything. Just so you can see what we're dealing with. So the direction down is 0, because it's the 0th row. 1 will be left, 2 will be right, and up will be 3. That's how we'll do it for now. I guess that doesn't really make sense, does it, if you think about it? Yeah, I'll change this up a little bit, I guess. So we'll just make the direction in sync with what our numbers are. So our directions will just be up, left, down, or right, because I think that will make things a little simpler. And if I come into the client, because we want the client really to be, or the position, we really want them all to keep track of their position or their direction. So we'll just make the direction equal to delta x, I think. If delta x is greater than 0, so this would mean that we are moving right, then we'll set direction equal to right. Yeah, this is how we'll do it. And let me copy this 4 times. So we have delta x. If it's less than 0, then our direction is left. If delta y is greater than 0, and if delta y, oh my gosh, delta y is greater than 0, and if it's less than 0. If it's greater than 0, our direction is down, and if it's less than, it is up. That should be fine. So now our direction is being updated to be whatever direction we're moving. But how do we visualize that? Well, first we have to actually draw the sprite. So how do we draw this 4x4 character? Well, we'll write a script to do that for us, because we'll probably need this in the future too. So, and I don't think GameMaker has a very good way of handling this 4x4 kind of image. So yeah, we'll just write our own. Alt-C in the utility, and we'll write a script. We'll call it render 4x4 sprite. 4x4, yeah, 4x4 sprite. That'll be fine. Anyway, this is just gonna be a basic function. So we'll need to specify an x and y position. We'll need the sprite's index. And then we're going to need the So we need to specify which one we're drawing. So we'll need the direction and we'll need the frame. So we'll need the direction and the frame. And I'm also going to add in a scale so that we can scale up and down because we had to with the player. So we will do it with this as well. So back to this render sprite here. Okay, sorry about that again. So first we need to get the width and the height that we want to draw. So var w equals, and let me zoom in a little bit. Again, I can never tell what's big enough. Var w, so we need the width, which is going to be sprite get width of that sprite, and we're going to divide it by 4 because there's 4 frames. And then var height is the same exact thing, except sprite get height sprite divided by 4. Alright, and then we can do a draw. This is going to be a big function, so draw sprite part ext. So this is what we're going to use. This allows us to draw a part of the sprite instead of the full sprite. So now what do we need to provide? I'm going to do this in multiple lines because, like I said, it's a big function. We need, oh gosh, fix all that up. Alright, so we need the sprite, which is sprite subimage, which is just the index. The left position is width, call it just W, right? That is width times, and what is it? It's the frame. Yep, so X is the frame, Y is the direction. So back over here, W times the frame. So if we're on frame 0, it'll be 0 times the width, which is the 0th pixel. And if it's the first frame, it's 1 times the width, and that's the left position. The top position, however, is height times, and we can't just do height times direction because direction is a little different. For one, if direction is up, we actually, up is 0, but we want it to be 3. So it's really just, yeah, and then down is actually 3, but we want that to be up. So we'll have to do a mapping, I suppose, here, which isn't too bad. Var real direction equals, and we'll just do 0 for now, and we'll say if direction equals up, then we want this to be frame 3 real direction equals 3. Let's copy and paste this a few times. If it's down, then we want the real direction to be 0. If it's left, we want it to be 1. Or is it 2? Yep, it's 1. So it's the second one down. 1, and then if it's right, we want it to be 2. And that should be fine. And now we can multiply h by the real direction. The width and the height, that's literally just the width and the height. The x position is x and y, but we need to do a little more to it. And I'll do that in a second, so I'll put this on their own line. X scale is just scale, Y scale is scale. We need more. We need the color, which will just be C white, and the alpha, which will be 1. So what did I need to do the X and Y? Well, right now, it is going to draw the sprite at the top left corner, but we want it to be centered. So we basically need to add in, we need to say plus the width divided by 2 and the height divided by 2. And normally this would just be fine. This will make it move, and actually we need to subtract, not add. So normally this would move it to the center of the player, or the center of the point. But in this case it won't because scale might be different. So we just need to multiply it by scale now. So if the scale is like 2, then it'll double how much it offsets by. Alright, but that is everything for that function done. We're running close to the 20-minute mark now, so let's get this over with. Go to the player data. And if I scroll up here to where we actually render, right now, when we render it, we're just doing draw sprite, and we're drawing that player sprite. So we're going to get rid of that now, and we're going to call our render 4x4 sprite and provide it the parameters that it needs. So what does it need? It needs the x and y position. That's just position.x and position.y. The sprite will be trainer painter. The index for now will do 0. The direction will be whatever direction we're facing. The frame for now will be 0, and the scale will make 2.5 because that's what we used before. Frame will have to change in a little bit, and so will index. But for now, if I run this and I execute it, let's see what we get. We are getting movement. It is weird that we start off facing up instead of down, but that could probably be fixed. But right now, it is rendering in the correct directions, and if I run this again, everything looks fine. They are updating synchronously. You'll notice, though, that a bug we'll have to fix eventually is if I run a new player. The new player thinks everyone is facing upwards because that's the default. And the only way to update it right now is to actually tell the player to update the player's position. But we'll fix that in future. For now, it's not that big of a deal. So let's get some animations working. I guess we'll start with that. So we'll need to create a variable in the player again called frame equals 0. And this will be really easy to animate, I think. So under the update position here, when we are in this weird if-else statement, so what this is doing is saying that we're trying to move, and this is saying that we are no longer moving. So in here, I would say frame plus equals, and we're just going to do 0.1 for now. That'll just be something we test out. And under here, we'll just set frame equal to 0. So if we're moving, we'll just increase the frame by a little bit, and if we're not moving, we'll set it to 0. The reason we're not increasing just by 1 is because that might be a little too fast. It might like speed off. So 0.1 I think will work. Now when we do this render 4x4, for index, we can't just pass in frame. If we do that, actually I'm curious about what it'll look like. It'll look funky. No, surprisingly, it doesn't. I am curious. That might mean something's broken, but for now, we'll leave it, I think. Oh, the index. That's wrong. 0. It was wrong. We should be passing into the frame, not the index. The index is the sprite index. So yeah, now I'll show you why it's going to be a little funky. Yeah, I figured that would look a little weird. Yeah. So what we have to do here is under frame, instead of just passing in the frame, we need to call, what do we need to call? We need to floor it. Floor it, and then we need to modulus for it. So floor modulus for. That's a mouthful, but that should, in theory, make it work. So I hold down the right key. You can see we're animating, and that happens to work everywhere. Okay, and then if I come into here, now let's get this index to work. So open up the trainer sprite, and we'll edit it. And I'm going to come into here, and I'm just going to select a bunch of these guys and just drag them in, and that should add in a bunch of frames. Yep, that just works, so that's good. So now let's go back into the player data, and instead of passing in the index, we'll just pass in our ID. That should be fine. Don't have to worry about modulus or anything like that. It should just work, hopefully. And if I execute the first player looks normal, just like before. But if I run a second player, you'll see that now she's the next sprite over. Ooh, that was a weird zigzag. Okay. Yeah, some things need to be fixed there, but for now, we should be able to have multiple players running at once, and they all have different sprites. So now it's starting to actually look like a Pokemon game. It's actually looking realistic. Except for that freaking visual glitch. It's a visual glitch because it doesn't actually affect anything. It's just zigzagging, and it's weird because that's not even the other bug. That's a different bug, I think. But it is nice to see things working out at least. I will be looking into that for next time, and we'll try to fix it. And after that, I guess we can get some collisions working, which will be really fun. That's going to be a hassle because collisions need to happen on the server side instead of the client side. So trying to handle that will be interesting. Never done that before, so hopefully we are able to do it. I'm trying to figure out what's causing this bug. Oh well, I'll figure it out. So anyway, until next time, guys, I'll see you later.